This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good looking friends. So, a couple days ago, Dan Wooten had posted this on his Dan Wooten Outspoken webpage. It was actually posted on May 28th, and I'm a bit disappointed that it didn't get picked up or was talked about very much. Essentially, this was Dan Wooten calling out again the Sussex squad and Christopher Boozy for continuing with this campaign attacking Catherine. He writes at the bottom here about the relentless anti William and Catherine social media campaign by saying, "Indeed, the only thing causing any stress has been the ghoulish and frankly grotesque hounding of Catherine by the Sussex squad, who I've already revealed to be the biggest trolling gang of the internet age." And I would have to agree with that. The way that they have come together on a global scale in order to coordinate to get certain things trending, to attack, dox, harass. I mean, we have witnessed this over the last 6 years. Anyway, determined to force the suffering princess into yet another unnecessary public appearance. Head of the conspiracy is Christopher Boozy, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's professional ally and friend who has been paid for research by the Sussexes and was then famously platformed in their high-profile Netflix reality show. Over the past month, he has led a relentless social media campaign designed to restoke the same deranged conspiracy theories about Catherine. She's dead, she's unhappy, she's abused, she's faking appearances, etc., that had run wild before her dignified March 22nd video announcement of her diagnosis. The fact Harry and Meghan have thus far refused to call off the number one attack dog, despite Catherine's cancer battle, is the biggest indictment of their vile nature yet. How can this hypocritical couple claim to care about ridding the internet of disinformation and trolling while backing someone doing this? Now, I've seen a couple of people, including Dan Wooten, make a public plea to Harry and Meghan asking them to denounce the behavior of the Sussex squad if they truly believe in fighting online harm, bullying, and disinformation. To me, I find that being the most ridiculous request because we're 6 years into this saga and all the harm and hurt that they have done, and they've yet to come forward to apologize. And on top of it, they're funding and supporting this terror squad. Who really thinks that it's realistic that Harry and Meghan all of a sudden are going to come forward and say, you know what, Sussex squad, don't hurt our family. What you're doing is wrong. Does anybody really believe that these two would come forward and acknowledge that in itself if they made some type of denouncement of the group that they are funding and supporting? That just makes them look guilty. And of course, these two hold zero accountability for anything that they have done. The fact that these two remain silent is acknowledging that they are complicit with this. And what we're seeing now with these journalists who want to talk about this online trolling is completely leaving Meghan and Harry out of the equation when they are the sole root of the problem. So it's been reported that the Sussexes have a little WhatsApp group with all the journalists, and the Daily Mail is part of that. And recently we've been seeing a lot of propaganda being pushed out for the Sussexes in a particular way that does not highlight any of their bad behavior. Let's just leave it at that. So today, this article came out, and it leads me to believe that the Harkles are behind it. I want to go through this with you, and then I'll explain to you why I believe that. Article by Brendan O'Neill. Barbaric and inhumane. This internet trolling of Kate betrays a moral rot in society that must be rooted out. The online persecution of the Princess of Wales is one of the ugliest spectacles of our time. For months, an unholy alliance of crackpot conspiracy theorists have been using the internet to hound Kate and her young family. This motley mob of anti-Kate trolls have been pumping out cruel speculation about her health and whereabouts. They have swarmed social media sites to push fervorish, flagrantly fact-free theories about Her Royal Highness. Is she really ill? Or is she hiding? Perhaps she has abandoned palace life following a falling out with William. There are other, viler theories, often compounded by inaccurate stories in the mainstream foreign press, which doesn't have the decorum of the British media. Indeed, Spanish papers last week published flawed, unfounded reports. Amid reports that Kate is considering making balcony appearance at Saturday's Trooping the Color, the cruelty of such misinformation is mind-blowing. Who in their right mind would spend their days promoting hurtful rumors about a young mother diagnosed with cancer? Why would anyone make a hobby out of taunting a poorly mum whose only crime is to take time out to convalesce from surgery and illness? The fact is that the trolling of Kate betrays a moral rot. It's been going on since January when it was announced that she was undergoing abdominal surgery. Crucially, the news should have meant that her medical privacy would be respected. But the abuse has continued ever since, summed up in particular by the demented reaction to a charming picture of Kate and her children that was released to mark Mother's Day. Kate's admission that she had tweaked the image in a minor way, something everyone does in the selfie era, was seized upon as proof, yes, proof, by Pound Shop Columbos that the royals are hiding something. To everyone's shame, Kate felt obliged to explain, releasing a video message revealing that she had been diagnosed with cancer. Even the video, inevitably, was held up by a twisted minority as proof that something was awry. It's not really her, said loons online. It's AI. It's a body double. The trolling of Kate is more than just another online feeding frenzy. For years, social media platforms have amplified the potential for bullying, abuse, and sexual exploitation. But her treatment raises pressing questions about society. For a start, it shines a harsh light on a scale of internet addiction that's dragging us even further into a vortex of antisocial and immoral behavior. If we witness such appalling behavior in a pub, for example, we'd react to stop it. Why then do we tolerate such bullying on the net? Let me stop here and interject. So, here in the United States, unfortunately, if you stand up for yourself and try to defend what you have or be a good Samaritan, it could actually land you in jail. Take, for example, in certain states in America, like New York, an employee could actually lose their job if they try to stop someone from looting a retail establishment. Or how about this on the subway? I don't know about you, but I would prefer to have a barroom brawl online than in real life because this is what's happening here, especially in New York City. People are getting attacked, and if they fight back, then they get thrown in jail, like Daniel Penny. So, what we see are people not fighting back and people standing around not wanting to help or step in. Anyhow, getting back to the article. It benefits no one to pretend that vile trolls are just a modern version of barroom bores. Trolling is not an extension of the human experience, it's a rejection of it. The internet coaxes us away from the institutions and social connections which, for millennia, have helped to keep us sane and good. Family, friends, real life socializing, and all other habits of togetherness developed over centuries. These things kept us grounded. Now, with just a flickering screen for company, people are left to their own lonely devices in a virtual world of nonstop nonsense. Look, I don't disagree with this, but let me ask a real question of everyone. Do you think Catherine is online looking at social media all day, trying to get better? I highly doubt it. And I do think that if this was truly a problem, William definitely would step up and say something about it. Also, the palace has the power. If there's stuff on social media that they want pulled down, all they have to do is pick up the phone. They did it for Meghan, so why wouldn't they do it for Catherine? I'm sure for her own health, she's being shielded away from not only the newspapers, but stuff online. And she doesn't look like the type of person who is scrolling all day long like Meghan Markle. The princess's treatment exposes the threat posed by internet culture to civilization itself. Weirdos online can be seen and heard by thousands, perhaps millions. By the power of their fingers alone, they can disseminate their bitter drivel to the world. And yet, these broadcasters are free of the rules and etiquette that govern books, television, and newspaper. The Kate haters can say whatever they want, whenever they want, with no consequences, and all under the cloak of anonymity. As a society, we urgently need to tackle this evil. I'm convinced that if everyone had to prove who they are before they could post online social media, trolling would evaporate overnight. Of course, it's not straightforward. We're often told that online anonymity is essential to free speech. That without this cloak of invisibility, people would not feel confident to blow the whistle on government corruption or to stand up to ruthless rulers. That might be very well true, in part at least, yet there is no denying that in many societies, including ours, the use of false identities is being exploited for the purposes of bullying and harassment. Anonymity has become the fetid trench from which antisocial cowards shoot their invective at public figures, degrading public life for all of us. It would be a good start if the billionaires of Silicon Valley and our own political classes would at least address the problem, acknowledge the potentially catastrophic downsides of allowing people to hide behind a mask. We may live in an era of 24/7 access to the inner lives of the famous. It's a world where it's normal to speak openly about mental struggles, for people to write memoirs on their emotional hardships, to post on social media about life's trials and tribulations. In that context, when Kate did not comply with those behaviors and instead gracefully took time away from the public spotlight to deal with a very serious illness and look after her young family, she became a target of a shocking stream of malevolence that drips hourly from the internet. The truth is that we should all be deeply concerned at the way the toxic antisocial thrust of the internet age chips away at civilized values and at the barbaric fad for anonymous hectoring. If we fail to put a stop to this, it won't only be bad for the Waleses, it will be bad for Britain itself. It is reported that Prince William is at his wits' end over the hounding of his wife, as well he might be. But he should remember that there's a groundswell of decent, normal people out there who are on their side. Now, I'm going to say that it's the Sussex PR camp that's behind this. And even though they didn't mention Meghan Markle's name, they conveniently left out the source of the problem, which is Meghan Markle. And that's a big indicator in how they are positioning this narrative. It's also being used to deflect away from Meghan going after the Sidley twins. A few other indicators where I believe that the Sussexes are behind it is the paragraph where it says it's a world where it's normal to speak openly about mental struggles, for people to write memoirs on their emotional hardships. Now, who else whines and complains about these two topics the most? Harry and Meghan, especially when it comes to online harms. It's a well established fact that the Sussex squad and Meghan and Harry are at the root of this trolling. As you can see, Christopher Boozy has been leading the charge with sparking the conspiracies around Catherine's video being AI and whatever else nonsense that he's spitting out. Also, let's not be surprised that there is a story leaking in Spain when we know that Spare was leaked in Spain, and all of a sudden the squaddies are the ones who are reporting the story from Spain. Now, this is one of the squatties who recently have been responsible for the majority of these violent, vicious rumors that have been spreading around about Catherine, amplifying the fake news that was leaked out of Spain as if it's fact.
This Spanish reporter Concha Calea saying that Kate Middleton was in a coma, and it was very serious. And it had been the kind of one-off piece of news that we were wondering, can you trust that source? Can you not trust that source at all? And I remember asking on Twitter, who is her news supplier? Who's the news carrier? Who's giving her the tips? And she's given updates after that, updates which suggest that AI video that most people suspect is AI, she basically doesn't trust it. She's written it off. Kate is still in a bad condition. But again, this week on May 26th, she gave a further update. And that update is basically that it's bad. It's gonna be a while. In August, she's gonna need another surgery. She does not use the word cancer, and we have to remember that if that video was AI, it came from likely the royal family in connivance with the British media, the BBC in this instance, if it was AI, and it's not her family putting out that statement that she has cancer. We wouldn't know what she has. If the Spanish reporter can be trusted, yes, she's sick, but we don't know, exactly what the sickness is. If you choose not to trust that video because it's AI. But the thing that the Spanish reporter is saying about her needing another surgery in August, that's interesting. Of course, she says Prince William is nowhere near Kate and he's just gallivanting about the place with his special friends at night. Who is her source? Before people were saying it's the concubine, hear me out. I think the source is Carol Middleton. I think that the British royal family has blockaded her from the British media and she can't access the US media a lot. I really feel Carol Middleton.
Yep, these are Meghan's fans, and this is what they're spreading now. They're now going and harassing Carol Middleton. But it's not just only on X, it's also on other social media platforms like YouTube. Take, for example, Murad Merali. He's got over 300,000 subscribers and a couple thousand videos. Of that, in the last month, we have like over 100 videos, it seems. When Christopher Boozy comes at us with the audacity of saying that we're single-purpose hate accounts, why is he not highlighting this channel? The hypocrisy of these people is just breathtaking. Now, just because we don't like what these people have to say or agree with these people have to say, understand it's our choice on whether or not we want to look at it and watch it. Now, while I understand looking at this, if you were someone who was targeted like this and people were making thousands of videos, like I honestly can say it comes with the territory. If you're a public figure and you're out there in the public domain, I do think that the public has every right to comment. There is a line that needs to be drawn. And I think if Catherine asked for privacy so she could get physically better, I think we as a society need to take a step back and give her that space out of empathy and compassion. There's a very big difference between Meghan and Catherine. When Meghan stepped away and wanted her privacy, she was still in the media as her own doing almost every single day. So she can't expect the public not to talk about her when she's giving the public things to talk about. Here in this situation, Catherine hasn't done anything. It's not like she's walking parking lots and hiring paparazzi to follow her around to pretend that she's sought after. As we saw with the last squatty, they have no issue talking about Catherine's personal health struggles. So all bets are off, and Meghan's malignancies should be on the table and topic of conversation for each and every one of us. Because if they're going to play that game, then let's dance. But going back to this article, I want to point out that another indicator of this being backed by the Sussexes are in the comment section. So throughout the day, comments were being left about Christopher Boozy, the Sussex squad, and it appears that Daily Mail has been monitoring comments and deleting those. So what you have now are comments that are either very generic around technology or comments that turn back to Meghan and say, oh, Meghan faced the same type of trolling and hatred. And then you have comments that are either sympathetic or not sympathetic towards the monarchy. Anything that reference the Sussex squad or Christopher Boozy and the involvement of these trolls that have been attacking Catherine and the royal family have been wiped. I even entered in a comment and came back a couple hours later and it was gone. So we know that they are censoring those voices because this is the narrative that they want put out there for the purpose of giving justification to put regulations and policies in place to give up anonymity. I'm sorry, but this one squatty or the handful of vile trolls that have been hired specifically by a certain couple to go after people shouldn't ruin it for all of us. Another detail here that I think we need to raise is that in this article, they said that these rumors, for the most part, were spread and talked about from the foreign press. Well, who was the foreign press aside from Spain leaking this last news article? It was the U.S. It was the U.S. who started all of this out of California. And who are the two people that we know that have been behind the scenes deliberately trying to destroy the First Amendment, pushing policies that give access to researchers and doing away with our privacy? I've said this before and I'll say it again. What we're seeing happening with this trolling of Catherine is intentional, and it's being used to prove the point that Meghan and Harry have been banging on about social media and the addictiveness with the algorithms and how it harms your mental health. For the most part, half of this article was talking about just that. Now, I know this is not a topic that only Meghan and Harry talk about, but considering who they're writing this article about and considering who these trolls are, and they fail to mention that, leads me to believe that they are 100% behind this in order to prove this point. I agree. The Sussex Squad is the moral rot of society, as is their leader. These are people that want to destroy everything and don't even realize that they're doing it because they are a product of society and what has been indoctrinated in our institutions, such as school as well as corporate America. What I walk away from this article is not so much this is the root cause of why Catherine is being trolled, but more so of this is why we need to remove anonymity of people online and invade their privacy. Removing anonymity is not going to stop people from being a jerk. I think what really people need to think about is how badly do we need to be on social media? You know what I mean? Lack of regulation on the internet is not the reason for the rotten society. The rotten society is attributed to the breakdown of the family unit and the lack of values and traditions for stability being instilled in these upcoming generations. That's why we're seeing what's being reflected online. The final point that I want to make is bringing accountability to the journalists and media. A lot of this discourse that we're seeing online is a result of the influence that the media has over the psychology of all of us. Now, I do think that there should be laws around trolling. Meaning, if you're obsessively trolling and stalking to where it crosses over into the physical world, then I think there needs to be penalty and punishment for that. Examples of criminal activity would be like crossing over into your real world, trying to get you fired from your job, or affecting your family and endangering the safety of them. And for those that have to use the internet to earn a living, I think there should be legislation put in place in order to protect those people from the online harms and damage that harassment trolling can cause. Think about what these Sussex Squad members do. They see someone that they're targeting, they'll go ahead and target everyone in their orbit. So if there is someone online that you're doing business with, they'll go ahead and attack that person to ensure that they don't do business with you. It's things like that we should be focused on, not things that restrict speech or expression or sharing opinion. Obviously, this is a complex debate, and at the moment, I don't trust the people who are pushing for regulating speech online for a safer world. In closing, Meghan and Harry's Sussex Squad online militia need to be dealt with because they're not just internet trolls. I mean, they're terrorists, of which they are threatening, doxing, intimidating people, to which it is jeopardizing people's physical safety. We know that they have compromised the royal family's safety by what they've been doing. Think about all those that don't have the money to pay for that kind of security. So I think that it's important that if William's going to do anything, he needs to shut that group down ASAP. But what do you guys think? As always, I will be back with more content, but until then, please be safe and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
I was such a fraud.